Welcome to the Balanced Body Masterclass. Before we get started, I'd like to congratulate you for making the best decision possible on your recovery from scoliosis. By the end of this masterclass, you're going to be able to reduce your pain, reduce your muscle imbalance, and improve the curvature of your spine. Let's talk about the course material that we'll be covering. We'll be taking a look at the different types of scoliosis, the Cobb angle, and the different treatment options that you have available to you. I'm going to give you a rundown of my 10-year recovery, where I started and where I ended, and how we can make your transformation happen even faster. I'm going to go over inflammation control, perfecting your sleep, neurological motor function, and breathing. Moving on, we'll get into life-changing recovery techniques. These include muscle releases, static stretching, unilateral training, mind-muscle connection, compensations, and so much more. Once we have a good grasp of the recovery, we are going to get into training, which includes understanding proper form and what that means for you. We'll be discussing pain signals, lactic acid buildup and why that's a good thing, recovery windows, and core workouts. To close it out, we're going to be talking about genetics, macros, building muscle and burning fat, the keto diet, 3-day fasting, and additional supplementation. By the end of this video, like I said, you will know exactly how to overcome your scoliosis. You're going to be able to reduce pain, reduce your muscle imbalance, and improve your spinal curvature. This is the Balanced Body Masterclass. At the very end of this presentation, if you don't think that you can do everything on your own, you will have the opportunity to work with me individually. It's time to dive in. There's going to be a lot of information, so make sure to take out a pen and paper, close out all the tabs that you have remaining on your browser, turn off your phone, put it in airplane mode, and focus on what you need to learn. Let's run through a few quick scoliosis facts. Scoliosis affects about 2 to 3% of the population. So if you're feeling like you're alone, I promise you, you're not. If you're over the age of 60, this jumps to 38%. So as you grow older, there's a higher probability of you getting scoliosis if you don't already have it. Now, the fact that you're in this class, I'm assuming that you already do, and that's why it's extremely important to learn how to fix the problems that you're facing right now. If you feel isolated, if you feel like you don't have the answers, it's okay. There are many people that are in your position. I was once in your position, and now I'm able to get you to where you want to be. Each year, there's 600,000 visits to private physician offices. There's 133,000 hospital visits, 38,000 spinal fusion surgeries, and 30,000 children are fitted with a brace. Everything here that I have is cited from sources, as you can see, and this statement is quite sad to see. Scoliosis patients have been shown to be 40% more likely to have suicidal thoughts. This is a very serious condition. It can take a massive toll on your mental health. I know because I've been there. I suffered from chronic pain that I thought would never end. I had people reach out to me on my YouTube page today telling me that they had suicidal thoughts. Things will get better, and I am about to teach you everything that you need to know in order to get to the place where you want to be, reduce that pain, improve that curvature, improve your symmetry, and build the physique that you've always wanted. Just right here, this is the comment that I received when I woke up this morning. You can see that I got it 3 hours ago. I responded, I said, "Hey, I know how it feels to think that things will never get better, but they will, I promise. I've been through the mental battles that you're currently facing. Join a few Facebook groups and connect with people. There's so much out there and so many people who are going through similar situations as you. Don't ever give up on yourself. There will be a day where sometime down the road, you can look back and say, I made it. It took me 10 years of trial and error to fix myself. I ended up writing a book on everything. You can download it for free on my website. It'll definitely help. If you haven't already, make sure to go to my website, ericthomasfitness.com/ebook, and download that right away. Everything that I have in that book is in this masterclass, but in this masterclass, I dive so much deeper and you get a much better understanding on how to implement everything and start that journey of your recovery. Now, as you've probably already done your research, a few of the symptoms of scoliosis include shoulders that are uneven. One or both of your shoulder blades may be sticking out, called a winged scapula, which is something that I had. Your head is not centered directly above your pelvis. One or both of your hips are raised or unusually high. Your rib cages are at different heights. Your waist might be uneven. the appearance or texture of the skin overlying the spine changes, or your entire body may lean to one side. Now this right here is what a normal spine looks like. This is the lateral and the rear view. So you have your cervical spine, which is your C1 to C7. You have your thoracic spine, which is T1 to T12. And you have your lumbar spine, which is your lower half, which is the L1 to L5. There are two different types of scoliosis. You have an S-curve and a C-curve. An S-curve means that your scoliosis looks like an S and you have two inflection points, and a C-curve looks like a C where you have one inflection point. Now, oftentimes scoliosis is accompanied by kyphosis or lordosis. Scoliosis is the lateral view. It's either the S-curve or the C-curve. Along with that, some people have the rounding of the upper back on a different plane, not the lateral plane. And if your upper thoracic back rounds and you point your head forward, that is considered kyphosis. If you have a lower back that is hyperextended, where your butt really comes out, that is considered hyperlordosis. Along with kyphosis and hyperlordosis, you might have some problems with your hips. This is called posterior pelvic tilt, which is where your hips round inward, and you may have anterior pelvic tilt, which is where your hips tilt outward. I'm not going to get into posterior and anterior pelvic tilt because that is more of the hip area, and that has a lot to do with tensioning and strengthening your hamstrings, your glutes, and your quads. So we're going to be focusing on the spine today, the C-curve and the S-curve of your scoliosis. Now, you can have two different cases. You can have a static case of scoliosis, or you can have a progressive case of scoliosis. A static case means that your spine is no longer changing in the degree of its curvature, and a progressive case means that your case is most definitely changing its degree of curvature over time. If you go to the doctor's office, they're going to do a test for you. It'll be called the Cobb method, and they're going to be measuring the angle of your curvature. This right here is a diagram of how they come up with that degree of curvature, and these are the classifications of scoliosis. So if you have less than a 10 degree of a Cobb angle, you're going to have normal spinal curvature. It's not considered scoliosis. If you have a Cobb angle ranging between 10 degrees and 25 degrees, that is considered a mild case of scoliosis. If you have a Cobb angle between 25 and 45 degrees, that is considered a moderate case of scoliosis, and anything over 45 degrees is considered a severe case of scoliosis. Now, generally, curves measuring between 30 and 50 degrees on the Cobb angle, they tend to progress 10 to 15 degrees over a lifetime. Once again, this is considered a progressive case of scoliosis. It is absolutely essential to learn how to stop this from progressing, and these training techniques and everything I'm about to teach you will do just that. Now let's talk about the three types of scoliosis. We have idiopathic scoliosis, congenital scoliosis, and neuromuscular scoliosis. Idiopathic scoliosis is the diagnosis when all other cases are excluded and comprises about 80% of all cases. So there's a very good chance that you have idiopathic scoliosis. This occurs during the adolescent stage of your lifetime, so when you're younger, and you will be diagnosed during puberty. Congenital scoliosis results from embryological malformation. So this has to do with you forming inside of your mother as a fetus. This is congenital scoliosis. It's not always caught right when you're birthed, but it would be recognizable before you hit puberty. Last but not least, we have neuromuscular scoliosis. This includes scoliosis associated with cerebral palsy, spinal cord trauma, muscular dystrophy, spinal muscular atrophy, and spina bifida. This type of scoliosis generally progresses more rapidly than idiopathic scoliosis and often requires surgical treatment. All right, let's dive a little bit deeper into adolescent idiopathic scoliosis. Good chance that you have this. So this is 80% of cases. It's idiopathic, which means the cause is unknown. They don't know why it happens. It may be sporadic. It might be genetic. There's a lot of genetic and environmental factors, and they just can't put it together. They haven't figured it out. This occurs during your growth spurt, so during puberty. Mild cases usually do not cause pain or problems with movement and difficulty breathing, but in my case, it did very badly over 10 years. Mild scoliosis is also equally common between male and female. Usually these cases are static, but they can be progressive, and women are 8 to 10 times more likely of having a severe progressive case. Neuromuscular scoliosis. Neuromuscular scoliosis is caused by poor muscle control, weakness or paralysis, and neurological problems associated with underlying conditions such as cerebral palsy, spina bifida, muscular dystrophy, paralytic conditions such as polio or spinal cord injury, and malignant musculoskeletal tumors. This is the second most common type of scoliosis. Moving on, congenital scoliosis. Again, this is a birth defect. It is believed to be related to an insult to the fetus during spine embryological development. Most cases here are non-hereditary, but if they were to break it down into progressive cases, there's 25% which are non-progressive, 25% which is mildly progressive, and 50% which are highly progressive. These are the things that doctors recommend and what you should be looking out for in terms of treating your scoliosis. Number one is the degree of your curvature. So how severe is it and how does it affect your lifestyle? Consider your spinal maturity. Is your spine still changing? Are you in your adolescent stage? Are you still growing? Location. According to experts, thoracic curves are more likely to progress. So is it in that cervical area? Is it in the thoracic, or is it in that lumbar? If you have a progressive case, you absolutely need to figure out how to treat that. If you're still in puberty and you have idiopathic adolescent scoliosis, you have a good chance of it progressing because your spine is still changing. Utilize all these techniques that I'm going to teach you, and you can control it before it gets worse. We look into treatment options now. This will be the most important decision of your life. And I mean that wholeheartedly. If you go the surgical route and you don't have the results that you want, you can be handicapped or debilitated for the rest of your life. Now, if you go the training route, this is cost effective, it is sustainable, and you can keep your body intact and learn how to take care of it for the rest of your life. If you look at the American Association of Neurological Surgeons, they give you three options. They say you should be observing, you should be bracing, or you should do surgery. Not once on the website do they talk about training. Let's look at the risks of surgery. So just a quick backstory before I get into this. I actually worked in medical device sales last year. I was working with neurosurgeons and trauma surgeons, and I saw what happens behind the scenes. It was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in my life. The fact that doctors are able to put their greed ahead of a patient's best interest absolutely blew my mind. And the fact that I saw it over and over and over again, not only in brain surgeries, but in spine surgeries, I couldn't handle it anymore. I lasted 4 months and I ended up coming back to this to help people that I know that I can help. Taking a quick look at the surgery, the risks. You have a success rate of whether or not the surgery even goes correctly. Do they put you under? Do you come out and it's all successful? Okay, let's say it's successful, maybe it's not. Look up those percentages for the surgery that you might need. There's also a chance that there's an implant failure. Maybe a month, 2 months, a year down the line, your rods weren't set right. It's moving, something happened. There are stories all about that. They're in the Facebook groups. You can read all about it. There's a foreign object immune response. You might get infection from something. You can have a spinal cord injury. You can have internal hemorrhaging. You might need a blood transplant. You might have a stroke. This all depends on your age, how the surgery went. There's a death rate. Like there's a chance that you could die by going under the knife. That is the most serious decision you can ever make, is to go under the knife. Let's say you have your surgery, everything goes right. You still might have mobility issues. You might have scar tissue, you might have nerve damage, you might have a fusion. Now, if you get a fusion, they take 2 or more vertebrae and they fuse them together, so they're no longer able to move. You become immobile. You're doing that to yourself before you even give yourself the opportunity of figuring it out. On top of all of this, not only the physical, you're going to have a psychological repercussion. It might take an even bigger mental toll on you. Again, you can see this in the Facebook group chats. Make sure that you gather information from all sources possible before you make a decision on going this route. Last but not least, it doesn't guarantee that your pain will go away. Now, the cost of surgeries typically range between $10,000 and $170,000 for spinal surgeries. So depending on your insurance, depending on if you don't have insurance, this can cost you a ton of money and it might not even solve your problem. So I was just mentioning to you how I was in these different Facebook groups. After I came out of the medical device industry, I decided to reach out to people in these Facebook groups and start to share my story and techniques that can help them. and I got a lot of backlash, and I was actually banned from the two biggest scoliosis groups on Facebook. Before I got banned, I had a lady that reached out and had told me her story, so I decided to record it, put it on YouTube, and include it in this class for you. She had a severe case of scoliosis. She had over 50 degrees of curvature, and after 3 months, she was able to reduce that into the 40s. Let's take a look at what she has to say. She said, "Hey, I hope this isn't too weird, but I saw your post in the scoliosis group, and I just felt like I needed to reach out. I'm going to send you a voice message."
Hi, my name is. I saw your post that you made in a group that we're a part of, and you were talking about how you healed, basically how you just straightened out your scoliosis. I am currently a year and a half into PT, and like I broke my back, I fell down the stairs, I had severe scoliosis, and I'm 29. So it was a big deal. They were going to do an 11 vertebrae spinal fusion. Sorry if I'm talking very fast, just trying not to waste your time. And I had a herniation, and we have since moved all surgeries back 6 months because I have been doing all this PT on my own, and I've taken my degree from like 51 to 42, and I have 2 other degrees that have lessened as well. So I was just wanting to reach out because what you've been able to do is absolutely incredible, and I don't know if you had anything to share, any tips, or kind of what your journey looked like. I'm really open. I've basically dedicated 70% of my life to this and healing my body and healing myself. So if you have any tips, if you have, anything, I'm all ears. But if you made it to the end of this message, thanks for listening.
Okay, so she was recommended to get 11 vertebrae spinal fusion. If you were to get that surgery, what they do is fuse your vertebrae together, and you become immobile. Like, you're not able to move. Those vertebrae aren't able to glide over each other, and you're going to be restricted for life. So she got multiple opinions, which we're going to get to, and she decided to do therapy. She did physical therapy for a few months, and she reduced her curve from 52 degrees to 41 degrees. I believe those are the numbers. It's absolutely incredible. The fact that all these surgeons just rush to get you into an operating room just to make some money blows my mind, because it doesn't guarantee results. You could still have pain for the rest of your life. You're going to have restriction for the rest of your life. You can have scar tissue. You can have nerve damage. You could have blood clots. You could die. It's incredible, the risk of going under surgery. And once I entered into the medical field and I was working in the operating rooms, I realized how serious surgery really is. It should be your last option, and that is why I promote training before you do anything else with scoliosis. Let's keep on going. I said to her, "Hey, I'm glad you reached out. Your story is incredible. And yes, I made it to the end of your message, LOL. I can't write it all down in here, and that's why I wrote a book." So I wrote a 75-page PDF that I put in book format. I created a table of contents. It's all clickable. Make sure to go to my website, ericthomasfitness.com/ebook. It's a free download. I have all of my techniques and everything I went through, and a lot of additional health tips in there for you. So go check that out. It'll help you tons. She said, "Awesome, thank you so much." She went and downloaded it. And then I asked her a few more questions. I said, "What kind of exercises are you doing in PT?" Because I myself, I'm always learning. I want to learn as much as I can so that when I'm helping people, I have all the information possible to help them navigate their scoliosis case. She said, "Thank you. It's definitely taken over my life and become a part of my lifestyle. But in November, my surgeon recommended I do Schroth therapy. I'm really just focusing on stretching and lengthening the core strength, keeping my back neutral at all times." Phenomenal. That is something that you should definitely be focusing on, strengthening that core.
I just figured talking is a little bit easier, but in November they had me do scrub, I don't know how you say it, therapy, and it's just a lot of like strengthening, kind of reminds me of yoga. And then I started walking probably in January, like more proactively. I could only walk, honestly, I couldn't even walk a block when I first got hurt because I fell down the stairs. I don't know if I said that, but I fell down the stairs. It was like tragic. But now I can walk like 4 miles in an hour and 10 minutes. So I do a lot of walking. I do a lot of deep breathing and belly breathing. Yeah, it's just a lot of strengthening. I work on my posture 24/7. It's like exhausting, but it's working.
So she went from not even being able to walk to be able to walk miles just in doing these therapies. Breathing is a huge thing. That's one of the biggest breakthroughs that I had during my recovery. And if you're in my masterclass right now, we're going to get to that point. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to get the masterclass so that you can learn everything you need to know to be able to overcome the scoliosis that you're experiencing right now. I go on to tell her, I said I did a lot of muscle releases when I was fixing everything. I would lay on a lacrosse ball for upwards of 4 hours a day sometimes. True fact.
I was trying to figure out why they keep sending. It's definitely not something I would ever have thought was going to happen to me. I literally fell down like 23 stairs. I herniated a disc in my lower back, and I think it was like 51-degree curve, my entire thoracic they wanted to fuse. And I asked the doctor to fight for me. I was like, I want to live. I am miserable. I had to quit my job. It was really, really rough. And when I went in for my follow-up, he told me, he's like, this doesn't happen in adults. So now I'm very determined to continue taking it down. I'm reading through your book right now. The part where you're talking about inflammation in the body, I cannot agree with you more. Decreasing the inflammation, decreasing like anything. I will tell you this too, I'm being extremely transparent. I've never touched any drugs in my entire life when only the surgeons were telling me pain management for like 7 months. For 3 or 4 months, no one would give me an MRI because, I don't know, I guess it wasn't bad enough. I have no idea. And it's a really bad herniation. And cannabis was like my best friend. I had to learn a lot about it. I had to do a lot of reading because I don't live in a state where it's legal, and I don't have access to those kinds of doctors here in this state. So I did a lot of trial and error. I got really sick, but I have been able to ingest it and like go on my walks and push through and really focus on concentrating in on those muscles. So not that I'm recommending people do that, but it was quite literally the only thing that got me from point A to point B for a long time. And now I'm like, maybe 10% of the time do I ever need it. And it's only usually when the pain is just a little too much for me to push through. But I think that's made a really big difference too.
So I go on to say, I told her that I used to smoke cannabis quite a bit. I actually wrote my book while I was under the influence of cannabis. The reason why I was doing that was because I was able to take my mindset into a different realm, it felt like. If you've ever experienced that, you're able to get into a much deeper thought. You're able to connect with your body, which is something that I did when I was training and when I was doing the muscle releases. I was also using cannabis, and I had a great, great connection with my body, in addition to the expanded mindset. So once I was writing my book, I went really deep into thought, and there were thoughts that I was having that were so deep that I didn't even put into the book. So I was like, maybe I'm too far out there. Maybe people aren't going to be able to connect with my train of thought, you know? So I ended up taking out some of those lines, and looking back, I really wish that I kept those in there because those might have been some extra details that really connected with certain people. I continued on, and I told her that I gave up smoking this year. So as of January 1st, 2024, I completely cut it out of my life, and there are a lot of benefits. I'm actually extremely happy with my decision. I have a very clear mental train of thought now. I don't experience any anxiety, social anxiety, anything like that. But when I was using it for my recovery, there were also a lot of benefits then. Let's keep on going.
Oh my gosh, I've never felt like more understood ever. I completely understand what you mean. A lot of times on my walks or, when I'm really thinking about how can I help somebody help me by telling them what I feel and what I'm doing. And it gets so deep.
It really gets deep.
I love that for you. I think that's great. It's definitely something I experienced a couple months ago. I was like, this is just really, I feel like it's getting in my way. So then I really shifted and I was like, I need something that even if I have to push through it, I need something that's going to help. And so I switched up the strains and stuff. So I don't need it as often. But I'm like, oh my God, my brain is so awesome because it was dead for a while. And now I'm like, oh my God, I have all these ideas and I have all these pathways and now I know what pieces to put together. So I definitely applaud you on that. And I'm so happy for you. And I totally mean this as a compliment, but I'm like skimming through because I definitely not right now because it's almost 11 o'clock, but I want to go through and really pull out the things that I'm liking about what you wrote. But this is amazing.
So I've had a lot of phenomenal feedback on my book, especially from people who have scoliosis. Everything that I put in there, it caters to anybody who's in the health and wellness field, anybody who just wants to learn more about their body and optimize their body. But specifically, if you do have scoliosis or muscle imbalance, this was made for you. I go on to tell her, I said, I've always been somebody to challenge the norms, and the pushback I receive is always expected. There has been a lot of people like you and I who are able to open up our minds to unconventional methods. And when you get to the medical field, when you're working with doctors, they're trained to be a certain way. They study to learn something very specific for a very long time, and that's what they try to push on you. The way I grew up, I was always very open-minded. I like to think outside the box and figure out other ways and other methods to overcome challenges. And in my case, over the course of 10 years of experimenting, I eventually got the answers that I needed, and that's why I'm giving them back. Here I go back into telling her how I was working in medical device sales with the neurosurgeons, and I was selling plates and screws for brain surgeries and for broken ribs. And when I was working in that field, I was working with the surgeons. I saw what goes on behind the scenes, and it's not something that sat right with me. I only ended up working there for 4 months, and yeah, it was a tough time, but I'm glad to be back into this and helping the people that I really can. I'm going to change some lives, so stick around and hopefully you will be one of those success stories.
A lot of the people that I met and spoke with, none of them were young, none of them were optimistic. It was literally like being told over and over and over again that I was walking towards a death sentence. I was on more prescription medicine than I could possibly imagine. I was still in pain. So I was willing to do anything. And that's what I told the doctor. I literally walked in. He was the third surgeon that I had spoken to. And I said, I just want you to tell me what to do. I'll do anything that you tell me to do, but I can't just stay on medicine. Like, I don't care if it hurts. I don't care if it's hard. I don't care if I have to change my life. But like, I need to save me. Like, I'm dying. And he heard me. So I think that's awesome. And you're a phenomenal resource.
Doctors are going to be prescribing you pain meds as soon as you walk in the door. That's how they start to make their money. They get you hooked. For some people, they're like, oh yeah, it's reducing the pain. This is working. If you don't fix the root problem, it will never solve your problem. You're just relieving the symptoms. You're not solving the root problem. In order to overcome the pain that you're experiencing, in order to reduce that curve, you have to be training. Like, you have to be retensioning the muscles inside of your body, having those neurons fire correctly in your brain to realign the structure of your body. I told her again, I didn't like what I saw and what I learned in the industry. I only lasted 4 months, and then I took my career off into a different path. And I told her that surgeons are definitely needed, but people should get multiple opinions and really weigh out all their options before they decide to get that spinal fusion, which, if you go on the forums, people go through it, they have multiple surgeries, they're still in pain, and their movement is even worse. It's not always a success story. Make sure that you try everything before you resort to the last option, which is surgery.
I couldn't agree more. My poor primary doctor, I know I ran him dry. I ran him through. He finally just told me, he's like, I'm referring you because if I order these MRIs, you're not going to get them. I had to ask for not just one of my MRIs, I had to ask for 3. So I had my neck, my back, and my lower back. And I was like, how are you going to tell me that I need an 11 vertebrae spinal fusion and you're not even addressing the pain shooting down my leg? It was insane to me. And obviously there's good doctors out there, but sometimes I think you just need someone with the knowledge to sit there and listen to you and like think beyond medicine. You know what I mean?
Couldn't agree more.
The sun has been my best friend. The ground has been my best friend. Spending time focusing on my body has been my best friend. Sleeping. Oh my God, sleeping is so healing, which I was never a great sleeper before. Yeah, I totally agree.
So sleeping position was my biggest biggest breakthrough with my recovery. I was actually unable to recover because during my sleep, I was sleeping on my shoulder. I was sleeping in certain positions that weren't optimal for recovery. And that is something that I stress more than ever. So if you're in my masterclass, we'll get to that in a little bit. I told her that I posted a video on YouTube about how I used to sleep and how I sleep now. And I also posted a TikTok on how to use pillows just a few years ago. This video got over 3 million views. It popped off. People loved it.
Don't you love how you're literally just telling the thing that you did to heal yourself? Obviously, it took a lot of time, but how many other people can see it? I cannot even express to you how much research that I did and how far down I had to dig just to find alternative solutions. And I felt so crazy the whole time. Like, I am definitely a lunatic. I know this is super weird, but it's working. So I guess I'm a weirdo.
So that I was in the same position as this woman. I mean, I've been there. I've talked to so many scoliosis patients where they go the route of going to the doctor. They're told one certain thing. They're trying to find other answers, and it's so hard to find these answers. Like, I can't believe how hard. Like, I never found the answers. I never found the answers, and that's why I'm doing this, and that's why I'm giving back and helping people who are in search of the answers that I was once looking for. Here, she sends me a scan of her x-rays where it states that she went from a 50.5 degree curve in her T5 to T11 to a 43.6 degree in her T5 and T11. Let's see if it's dated. It's dated from 1/11/24 to 4/04/24. So in less than 3 months, she was able to reduce her curvature by, what is it, 7 degrees in 3 months. She was able to reduce her curvature. That's incredible. In 3 months. That's absolutely amazing. This is what makes it all worth it. All right, we're going to keep on scrolling. I told her, honestly, these past few days have been a roller coaster of emotions. I've gotten so much hate, but I've also gotten so much positive feedback. I want to create a YouTube video talking about it, and I want to use your voice memos to share your story so that other people can see that training can reduce your curvature. Would you be okay with me using your voice memos? I'll block out your profile and your name if you'd like. I told her the scans are incredible. It's absolutely amazing that she's had that much success in just a matter of 3 months.
No, I don't mind. You can definitely use my voice memos. If you want to block out my profile, my picture, my name for now, that would be great. I'm not necessarily ready to share every detail of everything. I did for a while, and honestly, it was really hard. It's like people just wanted me to overnight get better. They wanted me to just boom for it to happen. And I was like, I am literally suffering in chronic pain every day. And I tried really hard to share and be as open as I could. And to be honest, I got a lot of negative backlash. So I kind of took a break from sharing anything. And I feel more called to share now, like when obviously I'm talking to you, but you understand. And I think you can appreciate a lot of what I've been through, right? I've learned a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have empathy or understanding for chronic pain. They don't understand. And for a while, it made me really angry. But I was like, that wasn't helping me at all. I just kind of realized, they're just not going to understand, and that's okay. So after I kind of adapted that, I just got over it. And so now I'm just working on healing. And so share with whoever, but keep me private.
Okay, so she gave me her blessing, and I was very appreciative of that.
I told you I have literally dedicated a ton of time to this. But that was only 3 months, and I think I have a follow-up scan in October, but I want to get one in 3 months. I'm laying down like on my back right now. One of my ribs used to come up higher than the other, and it flared out. Like I could feel it physically. And then my hips, I've really been working on like the pelvic floor core area because my hips were tilted, and I'm trying to get them to untilt. Which I feel like that sounds so crazy. But now I'm starting to feel different, not necessarily pain, but a different type of discomfort, but also comfort in my hips. And it's honestly, it's insane. It's wild to me. But I'm just trying to really hyper focus on the things that do the things. But yeah, that's 3 months.
Okay, so just to touch on that real quick, So once you are starting to fix one part of your body, you might start to experience pain or discomfort in another part of your body. We call this referred pain. So even though you might be experiencing, let's say, some pain up here, once you start to fix that and retension the muscles around here, you might have something tight down here where you're starting to experience, because now it's no longer pulling on it the same way. And that is what we call referred pain. Through the muscle release techniques that we're going to get to later in the masterclass, I'm going to teach you all about that, and you'll be able to overcome that very quickly.
And I think that you're brave enough to obviously put yourself out there, and you freaking wrote a book. Like, make a YouTube video, like share it with people. I'm telling you, when I was the one who couldn't walk a block, who couldn't barely walk to the mailbox, who had to quit her job, who didn't have the money because somebody took my health insurance away from me, I would find comfort in what you have to say. And there's just not a lot of people out there. And I think that everybody wants a quick fix. Like, it would be great, right? If someone could stick a rod in my back, and it would be great. Or, if there were pills that you could take and then just wake up magical. Like, no, this is my body. This is my temple. Like, I'm about to give myself 100% because I'm the only one picking myself up off the floor. So share it. I mean, do it. Totally do it.
So surgeries do not guarantee a fix. If you go into the Facebook groups, if you go into the forums, there are many people who have had multiple surgeries and have had multiple rods replaced. So it doesn't guarantee you a fix. If you were to train with me, it's cost effective. You'll be having that sense of achievement, and you'll know how to take care of your body for the rest of your life. So during my 10-year battle, when I was suffering with that mental pain, it really took a toll on me. And I really only could focus on that, because pain is such a driving emotion, such a critical emotion that overcomes anything else. And once I finally did find the solution, my life has been incredible ever since. I continued and tell her, I said I had people telling me that I didn't even have scoliosis when I was in the Facebook group chats. They all wanted to see x-rays, which I never got x-rays. I'm going to be straight up. When I was very young, I did all the tests in the doctor's office, and they told me I had scoliosis. I wasn't going to go pay for x-rays. I knew what my problem was, and I knew I was never going to go get surgery. I said, okay, this is my scenario. I need to figure it out. That's something that I've always done. If I have a problem, I figure out my problem. After 10 years of testing and experimenting, I did figure it out. And now I'm getting all this backlash in these group chats. I've gotten banned from the 2 biggest scoliosis Facebook groups. Like, I can't even believe it. Like, I'm trying to give back. I'm trying to help people who are in a position that I was once in, and I'm unable to even reach these people just because they don't want to be open to the idea of different methods. And it kind of blows my mind. But if you're watching this video, I'm glad that you found this one, and I can guarantee you that if you were to work with me, you'll get the results that you're looking for.
Oh, I got kicked out of a couple groups too. I don't remember what the reason was. Like, I don't know. Maybe because what I was saying was crazy. But here's the thing. Let's just say you didn't, by some crazy miracle, like your muscles were just not attached to your bones. I don't know. You're still saying things that are going to help people. So what's the big deal? I don't understand people at all. You don't have to have scoliosis to understand it, but you had it because, like, you were all wonky. If you look at me, like, just as an individual person, I look 100% normal, meaning, like, you had visually a bigger shift than I do. I compensated so well, my entire back, like my vertebrae just started turning or whatever. So, I mean, I gained like an inch. I was 5'5", now I'm 5'6". Yeah, that's insane to me.
Yeah, so I'm going to pop up a picture right here. This was me in the beginning of my journey, years into my pain and my discomfort. And this is my transformation after 3 or 4 years.
From what I can tell, You seem very, very genuine and you seem very passionate about this. So, you know what? Those haters are going to hate. I think to do anything holistically with the body, not like fighting against medicine, but like a lot of people think that's what you're doing when you're taking a more holistic approach, and it's just a different approach. One is not, I mean, here's the thing, like, is one better than the other? It depends on who you are. I don't know. But like I can tell you for me, one was and is better than the other. So that's just my experience. I tried all the ways. I'm telling you, I know. But I mean, I have a cousin. She has a giant rod in her back. She knows no different. But I can tell you my quality of life and her quality of life are completely different. So just keep believing in yourself. Just keep remembering why you saved your life. That like means something. If haters want to hate, just F them.
So as she just stated, she has a cousin who had gotten the surgery, and her cousin's quality of life is nowhere near the quality of life that she's experiencing. She was saying how I was a very genuine person, and even though I was being called out in these Facebook groups and I was told that I have an ego just because of my success story, they were completely wrong. I don't have an ego. In fact, what I truly believe in myself is that I'm an independent thinker with a lot of confidence. I have a very good sense of intuition. I follow my intuition, and if something's not working out, it doesn't work out. I change it up. But eventually I'll find the answer, and I'll be exactly where I want to be in life. Okay, so this is where I'm going to wrap up this video. You just heard a story from somebody who had a bulging disc and a very severe case of scoliosis. She was recommended to do surgery. She pushed it back for 6 months, and for 3 months she did Schroth therapy. She had a reduction of 7 degrees in her thoracic spine and had seen incredible results. This is proof that training can reduce your curvature and reduce the amount of pain that you're experiencing. So as you can see, doctors don't always have your best interest in mind. Never forget that. Now let's take a look into the non-invasive approach, the healthier, cost reliable, and sustainable option for you to live the life that you've always wanted. So non-invasive statistics, estimates of the direct cost of non-surgical care in adult scoliosis are estimated to be as high as $14,000 per year. So your first option is bracing. Now this is only effective if you haven't reached skeletal maturity. This is for adolescent idiopathic cases. So if you're still growing, or if you have a child that is still growing with a 25 to 40 degree curve, this is highly recommended and it has great results. There's newer models that fit around the arm and not around the neck anymore, so it's a lot more comfortable. And studies indicate that braces, when used with full compliance, successfully stop curve progression in about 80% of children with scoliosis. The brace needs to be checked regularly to make sure that it's fit properly, and it has to be worn 16 to 23 hours a day until growing stops. If you were to go the bracing route, this would cost about $2,000 to $15,000. Right here, we're taking a look at the Scoli brace. So this is obviously somebody who is still maturing, their spine is still changing, and they're able to go that bracing route. It's a full body brace, and after 4 months, you can see a huge progression in the case. And after 12 months, this girl looks completely normal. So if you're an adolescent and your spine is still maturing, this would be a great option to look into. Now, my recommendation, if you're not to go into the Scoli brace, I would highly recommend a training program. This is the most sustainable method to reduce your spinal curvature, to reduce pain, and to build the physique that you've always wanted. Now, there's different options out there. There's the Schroth method, which you just heard from the woman in her experience. That's what she used for 3 months. There's also functional patterns, which you may have heard of. And then there's the Balanced Body program, which is the program that I will talk about at the end of this presentation. This right now is the Balanced Body Masterclass, so everything I teach in here, you can utilize and start to see the results in a matter of weeks. Let's dive a little bit into the Schroth method. If you go on the website, you can see that they recommend 10 to 20 sessions with an evaluation every 2 to 3 months. Your initial visit will be about $225. Every visit after that will be about $175, and then you need to take into account the reevaluation costs. Here we're looking anywhere between $1,900 to $3,700 plus reevaluations. But if you were to do this 10 to 20 times, I promise you this is not going to fix your scoliosis. And are you going to be able to keep up with these workouts and understand how your spine is changing to be able to manipulate your workouts when needed? I don't think so. Now, I did a little bit more research because I love to dive deep and find answers. So I went on the Scoliosis Reddit page. Let's take a quick look at somebody else's experience. This person said, "Hello, I wanted to ask what others typically pay for Schroth method. Here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we went to have our kid treated for a mild form of scoliosis, less than 20 degrees, and they said it wouldn't cost anything since insurance covers it. Lo and behold, 1.5 months later, I got a $1,000 bill for the first 2 sessions of Schroth. So 2 sessions, she got a $1,000 bill, $500 a session. A call to the University of Michigan Medicine told me to expect another $2,000 bill for the current month, 4 more sessions. So already she did 6 sessions and she had a $3,000 bill, $500 a session. That's absolutely insane. The cost apparently works as follows. Insurance gets billed $670 for each 45 to 50 minutes of PT. Turns out with the HDHP plan that I have, the insurance will disallow around 30%, but permit a patient responsibility of $470 for each 45-minute PT session until I reach the deductible, around $3,000. But it will reset on January 1st, which is coming up soon. Wow. Also, if someone didn't have insurance, the rate would only be $270 per 45 minutes. So I asked if I could just cash pay and get that $270 per session rate instead, because it would be cheaper. It's the smarter route. Why would you pay if you have to use insurance and you're still paying more out of pocket? It doesn't make any sense. She said, they put me on hold and talked to their supervisor and then told me, no, sorry, if there's insurance available, then we are required to go through insurance. I told them I wish they'd told me this beforehand, before we got started. Why couldn't they give me the hourly rate that they were going to bill at the very first visit? Don't we now have a no surprise billing law? They said, oh, that only applies to out-of-network providers, but this was in-network. See, your insurance took 30% off before allowing us to bill you $470. So that proves that it's in-network. No law against in-network surprise billing exists. So I had a good impression of the Schroth method initially, but the bill that I got seems wildly out of proportion. Are these prices normal? What is everyone else paying for a Schroth method session? I don't know if this is something that you want to consider, because you have to go 10 to 20 times, pay this ridiculous amount of money. You don't know how much your insurance costs. Maybe you can figure all that out. You can do all that work. But at the end of the day, you're going to be paying thousands of dollars for 10 to 20 sessions. If you think that 10 to 20 sessions is going to fix your scoliosis, you're dead wrong. Let's backtrack a little bit and take a look at the costs again. So initially, they said $225 initial visit, $270 per visit after that for 10 to 20 sessions. According to the website, that would be about $2,000 to $3,700 plus reevaluations. According to this patient experience, with no insurance, the cost was $3,000 to $5,600 plus reevaluations. With insurance, only 6 sessions was $3,000. You tell me if that's sustainable, if you can pay that out of pocket and expect results long term. It's not sustainable. Next up, second method we're going to get into is the functional patterns method. Now, if you don't know anything about it, it was started by a guy named Naudi Aguilar. And these are very advanced techniques. Once again, you need a trainer for every single session, and you're never going to be able to replicate them in a normal commercial gym. This guy on Reddit said, Naudi may or may not be a scam artist, but he has access to secret texts that form the basis of his training that he doesn't show anyone. His exercise programs are essentially complicated dancing. He has posted some pretty crazy rants on social media that simply use big words without saying anything. And most fitness professionals disagree with what he has to say. I mean, he might actually be a genius and everyone else has failed to keep up with him. But if you just search Reddit, you'll find plenty of posts asking the same thing, and you'll get Naudi fans saying he has helped while inserting as much diarrhea as possible. If you were to ask me, it's all about putting things in the simplest terms for you to understand and for you to carry out on your own. If somebody has to go to this length with all these words and all these types of training, are you going to be able to sustain that? Are you going to be able to pay it out of pocket? And do you think it's going to last long term? That's a question you have to ask yourself. Now we had an FP practitioner answer this post. The FP practitioner said, I'd love to field some specific questions you may have, but I'll leave you with this objective perspective. Fitness can be whatever you choose it to be, which I agree. We choose to prioritize enhancing the gait cycle. Why? Because of the relationship between gravity and tensegrity. We look at everyday life stresses and compressive forces that affects an individual's structure and how that is restricting their movement. From there, it's all about retensioning and strengthening the myofascial sling system to increase movement efficiency. So right there, like, these people are trained to use big words for you to think that they have a lot of value to provide you. It's a sales gimmick. If it's not simple, if you can't understand it, if you can't implement these techniques yourself, it's not sustainable. I'm not gonna lie, people have had great results with functional patterns. I'll be the first to say it. But all I want you to ask yourself is, are you able to pay for that? And are you able to replicate those movements on your own so that you can sustain this long term? Go onto the Functional Patterns website. It's $200 a consult plus $100 to $200 per session, which again, they recommend 10 to 20 sessions. You're not going to be fixing your case in 10 to 20 sessions. I guarantee you that. I personally have gone to a functional patterns practitioner, so I have a story of my own on this. When I was suffering from pain, I think I was probably about 8 years in, I said, okay, like, I'm going to go to something specialized scoliosis training. I fell upon functional patterns. I ended up having a practitioner near me in New Jersey. I went to him for my first initial consult, and I loved the results. I felt great, and I saw a little bit of a difference from a before and an after picture. I decided to sign up for the 10 sessions. I prepaid, and I ended up only going to 5. Now, you might be asking, why would I only go to 5 if I paid for 10? I knew after 5 sessions that I would never be able to keep up that style of training. I knew that I loved working out. I knew that I loved building muscle, and I wanted to focus on hypertrophy. And they told me that I could never train the way I wanted to. So I made it my mission to figure out how to do it on my own and get the answers and the results that I've always wanted. And over time, I finally figured it out. So functional patterns costs about $1,200 to $4,200. Is it sustainable? Definitely not. Now it's time to get into the Balanced Body Masterclass. The Balanced Body is about giving you all the information necessary so that you understand what's happening with your body and how you can correct it. There's so much more that goes into it than just training. At the end, like I said, there's going to be an offer, a 10-week program that I work one-on-one with my clients. I've had exceptional results, and we could possibly make you the next success story. Here we go, the Balanced Body program, a case study. I'm going to dive very, very deep into everything that I went through during my 10-year battle with scoliosis and how I overcame it. So disclaimer before I get started, I'm not a medical professional, and the following information is intended for educational purposes only. Why am I doing this? So I was looking for answers when I was struggling. I was in a lot of pain, I felt alone, and I felt like nobody understood where I was coming from. I always wanted to build a certain physique. I started lifting before all of my friends, and they started making fun of me. And a year later, eventually they started themselves, but they were able to grow at such a faster rate than I was, and I was battling injuries for so long that I couldn't keep up, and I never was able to build a physique that I really, really wanted. I thought I was going to be in pain forever. Like, there's no doubt, for a very, very long time, I thought that the pain would never go away. And that's why I made it my mission to figure out exactly what I needed to do to get myself to the other side. I thought I was going to feel off forever. I always felt the imbalance. I had extreme tightness in my shoulder. I felt my hips run even. I felt like my shoulder blades run even. I didn't feel comfortable in my body. It was such a weird feeling that nobody understood, and I didn't know anybody else with scoliosis or the case that I was going through. I just felt isolated. I eventually decided to share my story on YouTube, and my video eventually reached over 40,000 views. It had a ton of success. I had a lot of positive feedback, and I finally felt like I was connecting with people who were going through similar situations that I was in. That being said, I knew I had the opportunity to start changing lives. So this was me in high school. As you can see, my shoulder blades are definitely off. My spine was curving off to the left. I had a ton of pain in my shoulder and my rotator cuff, front side, the back side. I had pain on the side of my neck. I had pain along my elbow all the way up to my pinky, and I didn't know what was going on. I said before, I worked with a FP functional patterns practitioner, and Nina was also an additional trainer that I had reached out to ask questions. I told her I had started the 10-week program, and I wanted to know if I could lift during the program in addition to their exercises. She said, absolutely not. You should never want to lift ever again. It's responsible for the majority of your structural dysfunction. As soon as I received this message, I broke down. I couldn't handle the thought of never working out ever again in my life. Because looking at functional patterns, you can look at the physiques they build. It's not the physique that I wanted. I wanted to lift weights. So once I received this message, I broke down. I spoke to my parents and I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to figure this out. So thank you, Nina, for fueling my fire. As you can see, from 2017 to 2021, I made a massive jump in my progress. I finally figured out how to gain that mind-muscle connection that I need and start to build muscle. In 2017 to 2024, you can see an even bigger progress where the center line of my stomach is completely straight. I had a core, my hips were even, my chest was built out, my shoulders were bulging, and I felt absolutely amazing. I was 205 pounds at that time, and that was the happiest I've ever been. I knew for a fact I had found the answers, and that is exactly why I created this masterclass. 2017, this was me after a physical therapy session. My pain was excruciating and I had to start to ice it. I didn't know if I should do warm compresses or ice, so I just did whatever I could. I was trying out everything. Here is a video, if you take a look at this, of some of the symptoms I was having. So I had a ton of shoulder pain. I had chronic tension. My shoulder was always twitching. I knew something was wrong. I didn't know how to figure it out. Later in this presentation, I'm going to show you exactly how we can fix that. In 2018, I still hadn't figured out my training methods. I hadn't gotten to the point where I found the answers. You can see my back is completely off. It's lit up in all different areas. Some parts are extremely tight, and I had a lot of pain. In 2019, I decided to do a 3-day fast after learning a bit about it, and I absolutely loved it. After 10 years of pain, 48 hours into my fast, all of my pain was gone. So there's a lot of benefits into fasting and the keto diet because it reduces a lot of inflammation, which we'll get into later. Moving on from July 2019, after doing that 3-day fast, in August of 2019, I decided to go keto full blown. In a 3-day fast, your whole goal is to get into ketosis, which your body starts to shift from using carbs as energy to using fat as energy. And it's a lot more sustainable. You don't have the energy spikes and the crashes, and it's very good for reducing your inflammation. Like I said, I had a lot of pain for 10 years. It completely subsided once I was in the middle of that ketosis state. I decided to go into ketosis full time and just do the keto diet, and the pain continued to subside. I felt a lot better. This was my opportunity to really dial things in and figure out what could work and what was causing me more pain. Since I was able to lower that barrier of pain, I knew that if I did something wrong, I would feel it. If I was at the same level, I was good. And if it got better, I knew that this was an improvement and I was going to continue to do those things that made me feel even better. Here's one of my meals for breakfast. I was bulking at the time. I was trying to put on weight, which normally the keto diet is to lose weight. So I was eating about 4,000 calories a day for quite a few months, and I jumped up in weight. I had my blood work, and 2 months later, after doing the keto diet, you could see I had a lot more control of my back. At this time, I was already implementing muscle releases, something that we're going to get into later, one of my biggest breakthroughs with scoliosis. I started unilateral training, which we'll also cover, and I had that reduced inflammation. So you can see my back looks way more symmetrical. I started to build that mind-muscle connection, and I knew I was onto something. 1 month later of continuing the muscle releases, of continuing the keto diet, and continuing the unilateral training, my back started to really show the progress. This is where I absolutely knew I had the answer. And I just built and built upon this for 2 years straight before I started to switch things up again. I got a little bit chunky in February of 20. I decided to come off of the keto diet and I started to go back to carbs to test if the inflammation from the foods would come back. I was able to implement those carbs and I was still able to build my body unilaterally, do the muscle releases, and there was no pain. I knew I had figured out the training, the muscle releases, and the diet was no longer a problem. Then I decided to start my cut. So I was still doing my unilateral training, my muscle releases, and 9 months later I was able to cut down and really start to see a good symmetrical physique. This last picture, I said baby chest pump, none of the conventional exercises, ones that I've made up. ET Fit, what's up? At this point, as I documented, I was doing some exercises that I had made up just based off of feel because I finally had that mind-muscle connection, and I was no longer doing conventional exercises. I wasn't touching barbells I wasn't doing what the normal person would do to build their body. I decided to cut back down. I looked good in 21. I decided to bulk back up in March, and you can see I put on a little bit of fat. And then 5 months later, after bulking up a little more and cutting back down, I really started to shred down and start to build that physique and get that muscle definition that I was looking for. In October of 21, I really had a good physique. I was like, hell yeah, but I felt small. So I decided to bulk up. And in December of 21, I had a fuller physique that I was feeling a lot better about. This was my progression from August 2019 to August 2022. This is right when I found out my keto diet was the answer to the carb diet and utilizing my unilateral training and my muscle release techniques. So this was the progress from those 3 years. From the very bottom to my very best in 3 years. As you can see, I had no arms, no shoulders, no core, no chest. And after 3 years of utilizing all of my techniques, I had a full-blown physique. Here are some side-by-sides with my original physique and my physique after completing multiple years of utilizing my techniques. I went from having a ton of pain to having absolutely no pain and building my body the way I wanted to. Now let's get into the meat and the bones. So now that you know that I've gone through all of this, I've tested everything, I've written a book, and I've put it all out there for you, this is what you want to focus on. This is going to be every single technique and everything that you should know so that you can get the results that I did. My mission should be your blueprint. I've made it my mission to help people who are in a position that I was once in, to help people overcome scoliosis-induced hardships. This includes pain, imbalance, and all of the life struggles that come along with it. I thought I'd be in pain forever. I felt like I'd be imbalanced forever, and I wanted to build a body that I was proud of. This is the blueprint for you to overcome the challenges that you're facing right now.